if you don't mind. Bill Raleigh is amazing. You're a lawyer. I didn't realize you were a lawyer. How did that happen? Wait a minute, turn your microphone on. There you go.
My mom asked that question all the time.
He was like, another life.
What happened to you? Do you and Marwan El Rakawabi talk legal terms? Do you guys have legal jargon that you guys talk about? During things.
No,
all of their plays are in legal jargon.
We actually have 3 lawyers on our staff. Our golf coach is a lawyer as well.
That's crazy.
That tracks.
That makes sense.
It's paid its dividends in dealing with discipline and all those things. That's been the best part of it. But
contracts.
Long story, but I early 90s, I graduated. Late 80s, I graduated high school, college, and went to law school in the early 90s. And at that point in time, I had a choice to make of whether I coach or become a lawyer.
Right.
Or I finished law school, and I tell the story. My mom got the annual from my first year out of law school at Seton Hall, and not only did you go to law school, you went to Seton Hall Law School. My God. Well, at 1992, I think the average lawyer was making in my class like $72,000.
Yeah.
I was loving life, making $10,000 as an assistant coach at a small school in Virginia. So
good for you.
My mom laughs. I got an unmarked envelope with that page photocopied and just highlighted the amount of money people were making.
Right.
But I made a great decision. I love it.
Yeah. Does she still hold it against you though?
No.
She's like,
it took her about 25 years, but then she finally got over it.
She's like, yeah, took her a while. You should have just said, "Look, Mom, this is, lawyer, coach. Same probability of being fired." So I took the more enjoyable way of doing this.
I don't regret it for a minute. It was the best choice I made. I was able to, had great experience. Led me to where I am now. So
all right. And you're how many years now here at Schreiner?
Since 2017.
Yeah, because you fled Southwestern, and we praise you for that, because this is a real place. That's not real over there. Georgetown just is a mess. So you're in the right place now.
Georgetown grew up in the time I was there. In the 20 years I was there, it exploded. So I'm very happy to be in a smaller town. And Kerrville's been a great place for us.
Of course, the big topic this week for Schreiner is the men's and women's basketball teams are headed to the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference tournament in Shreveport, Louisiana at Centenary College or Centenary University. And both teams, the women had a little bit of a struggle this season. They didn't have a lot of height, but they have been hot as of late. So what are your the men have been kind of all over the place again, but they have to be the dark horse team again, because everyone knows that they're capable of beating anybody on any given day there. They've proven that this season. What is your take on how the tournament will go?
The women, actually, it's funny. The women finished better in the conference than the men did, which I never would have guessed the way they started out.
Right.
The upside, the men's tournament is wide open. There's 6 teams there. 4 of them finished 8-8 in the conference. So it's very balanced. Trinity's really good, but in a one-game situation, you want to play them. Want to play the leader for a championship. So the men, after what they did last year, anything's possible.
Yeah.
They just get on a roll and can win some games. They're as talented as anybody, so that's exciting. The women, there's a gap between the top teams and the rest of them. So
it's Trinity and everybody else, right? Basically, yeah.
And we beat the second and third in the league. We beat them during the regular season.
Right.
So for the women, the fact that they're wearing white in the conference tournament, which I think is big. If you can be a home team, it's a higher seed in the conference tournament. That's a first accomplishment. If they can get that first game. Then anything's on the table. So it's exciting for them.
Did your jaw drop when they beat Colorado College, the team that they historically have struggled against? That was, and considering that they're sub 500 this year overall, the women are, but they have some players,
Yes. They've struggled making shots consistently, and anybody knows the game of basketball. If you don't score, it's tough. It didn't surprise me, because I know that they can compete with anybody. 2 days or the day before the game before, they had Trinity on the ropes. Yeah. Probably should have beat them at home.
Right.
So they can beat anybody. It's just over the long haul, they're not big enough. You know,
Right.
that's, as you said before, it's just that their size is a little bit makes it difficult. But they play a style that is fun to watch, and if they get the game played the way they want it to be played, they're a handful.
It's interesting because like Demario Miles, who's just had a milestone earlier this season of scoring 1,000 points, is one of the best shooters around, and Nuria Buggs, who's still coming off that serious knee injury last year. She scored 26 over the weekend, and they lost, a tight one to St. Thomas. But those two together, if they put it all together, they can score 55 or 60 points between the two of them. I mean, they're dynamic athletically too. So
and they they get the game played at the frenetic pace that they love, and it creates those opportunities for them.
Yep.
I think one of the things that happened to them early in the year was Demario, who's a great scorer. She's number one on that scouting report, so everybody had game planned her.
Right.
And they couldn't get the game loose and couldn't get it frenetic enough to get her some open shots. Now they're starting to do that. Bree Sosa has really grown as a point guard.
Right.
They're getting contributions from all over the place. Riley Dill is continuing to get better, who's a local girl from Tybee. So, they have an opportunity. And like I said, for them, if they can win this first one tomorrow at 5:00.
right.
It'd be a great step forward for them, and then you're playing with house money. Then they're going to play Colorado, I believe, next, who they know they can beat. So it'd be a great opportunity.
Be good to see. The men are led by Camden Ross. And how would you? I mean, Camden Ross is among the national leaders in several categories. He's probably should be the MVP of the conference because he's so dominant, but they've been struggling at times. He probably won't get that award, but he's definitely an All-American candidate, I would have to think, based on his stats.
Yes, no, he's one of the best players, I think, in Division III.
Yeah.
Overall, the problem is the team being close to 500 hurts.
Right.
When he gets in national awards and those things, but he's so much fun to watch because he just plays so hard.
Yeah.
And, he's a guy who. He's a rarity in today's game in the fact that he's not the most talented kid on the floor all the time.
Yeah.
But he's going to outwork you, and
Right.
he's going to move, and he's going to keep going, and it's been fun to watch. He's going to graduate with 1,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, which
Right.
to get 1,000 rebounds in college is pretty darn good.
And he's going to be a dentist.
Yes, going to be a dentist.
Yeah.
And he's he's the mayor of Schreiner.
Yes.
And, everybody knows him.
Right.
You see him after games. He's walking around hugging everybody in the place, and,
right.
Which is great. He's just been a great addition to our.
I routinely see him, and he's usually with. He's at a sporting event. He's usually sitting next to Coach. Well, yeah, we'll call it Coach McCormick's wife, Casey. But yeah, so he's one of those kids where he'll make sure that he goes up and says hello to everybody. My favorite story about Camden Ross is he likes to give you hugs. Is that still a problem?
Well, it was a joke. All last year he kept coming up, and I just kept telling him, I said, you can do something first. I mean, I don't give hugs freely. And so when they won the conference championship, he found me out, and I gave him a big hug.
Yeah.
I've not hugged him since. So that's all again. I said, they don't come cheap in my business.
Right.
So.
And that's the thing that makes him sort of special is that not only is he a great player and he's a student obviously, but he's a good kid, a good family, and it's fun to be around him too. So
he's a great ambassador for the university, regardless of basketball.
Right.
He's a great young man. Family did a great job raising him. So
right.
He's the what gets me up in the morning are kids like that.
Yeah.
He's getting an opportunity. He's going to do something special. And I told him, I said, you're gonna walk away from here as one of the best players probably ever to put on a Schreiner uniform.
Exactly.
Which is, that's amazing
to
be able to do.
Right.
And so we're excited about it.
I feel like he's physically changed a little bit this year. Like sometimes you'll see kids who grow a little bit. I feel like he's leaner and tougher than he was last year, and a little longer than he was, which is shocking because he's so thin and wiry to begin with. But
he's stronger, and it's he doesn't look it
right, right,
because the way he's built, but he holds his own better. And he's such a good athlete.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is, and it's the most underrated thing is he's got a great motor. And, they call it, he just goes, and he can be. He reminds me of the guy from Kentucky who's playing for the Lakers, Davis.
Well, Anthony Davis, yeah, right.
Anthony Davis scored, I think, 2 points in the national championship game, but dominated the game.
Right.
Cam is that type of player.
Right.
He can make an impact on the game, whether he's making shots or not.
Right.
Because he'll get.
Well, that's what's that's what's happening is that people will try to double team him because he's so impossible to slow down inside, and that's opened up Christian Rodriguez, throughout the season, who's scoring, who's had some monster games. He's got that great soft touch inside. All right, now here's the other question for you. Melissa Hansen, the softball coach. She might be one of the funniest people I've ever been around. Would you agree with that assessment? She's a character.
Yeah, she's a character. She's a very neat person.
I was standing on the third base side taking photos, and I could hear her talking. And she pulled. My favorite one was she pulled a kid aside, and she's. And what's funny is when she talks to the kids, they always smile because she makes some kind of joke about herself or something. Mm-hmm. So she's talking to this one girl, and and she goes back to third base, and then the girl promptly hits a foul ball line drive right at Coach Hansen. And she's like, I told you to hit it, but hit it over there. And then she lost a ground ball, foul ball thing, and she told the ump, I thought we were best friends now, when he ruled against her. So she's quite the character. They've had some struggles, but they're again, she's got a very young. When we talk young in college, she's like, she's got a lot of 18, 19-year-olds, who are adjusting to Division III life. And I think people don't underestimate how good the athletes are at Division III. I mean, you're talking about people from all over the country who've come to play softball or baseball or like Leslie, play tennis. Mm-hmm. So,
well, it's also an adjustment, I think, being a college athlete in general. It's completely different than being a high school athlete.
It's a big step. Even if it's not to non-scholarship, it is still you're playing against the best of the best.
Exactly.
And in sports like baseball and softball, and pitching is your bread and butter. And,
right.
Your team can be completely different if you have a stud pitcher who can get guys out or get people out. So. They're both sides, baseball and softball, just are struggling to try to find that consistency on the pitch mound.
Yeah.
We can score runs.
Right, you can hit.
You can hit and do some things, but it's just a matter of getting the consistent out. And that's the toughest thing to get at the non-scholarship level, because if you're a good pitcher, someone's going to give you a scholarship.
They've already snapped you up.
I'm so grateful that they changed the you still see dominant pitching, even at the Division III level. Texas Lutheran had that girl that I think she graduated now finally, who just was ridiculous. But when they moved the pitching mound back, a couple feet, it really changed the game. And it's something that's wonderfully action packed. If you want someone diving, go to women's softball. Someone diving for a ground ball, it's great. So
it's that catch-22, because a dominant pitcher, is a great thing, but it's a pretty boring game.
Right.
Someone striking out 17,
it's
18
terrible.
People.
Yeah.
The other side is, but you need that.
Yeah.
Because when the ball's in play a lot, there's a lot of runs scored. So it's been fun, and it's funny going back to I've always wanted to mic up coaches on the sideline and listen. Unfortunately, language is probably we get rid of that. But I look back on my long career.
It could be a private feed.
When guys I coach get together, they don't talk about X's and O's. They talk about.
Right.
Remember when Coach did this?
Yeah, right.
When he said this, or that's the stuff that the memories are made,
right.
and all that stuff. Before I got to mention though, we won the conference. Women's wrestling won their conference.
Oh, did they really? Okay.
This past weekend, they called the St. Louis Intercollegiate Athletic Conference.
Okay.
Because there's no wrestling close to us here, but they went up to the Chicago area, and they won the championship. I think they won 6 of the 9.
Wow.
Weight classes, which is amazing.
That is amazing.
And then the men end up finishing third with one champion and a couple second place. So
I really, women's wrestling is blowing up across the country, and I just think, and I don't understand Texas. Like, you have so many. I was at a track meet yesterday, and I was like, man, there's a wrestler, there's a wrestler, there's a wrestler. It makes so much sense, and yet we don't have a real big following for it.
I think because so many of our sports are outside.
I don't know. I mean, like, we love MMA here, which is wrestling is the reason why MMA is actually. If you look at the actual how MMA works, it's the wrestlers, it's the guys who can get people on the ground. So it's interesting.
It's a lifestyle though. So
Yeah.
It's a different animal.
Yeah.
And as the father of daughters, I can honestly say women's wrestling never crossed my mind. It's something that my daughters wanted to get into, or I wanted to get them into. But it's as I've watched it, I mean it's like running. The best way to describe it. You gotta have a passion for it, because it's ball sports, as I call them. There's a goal. You try to keep the ball out of the goal, or you try to put the ball in the goal.
Right.
There's something.
Well, you have a tangible.
Yeah.
Leslie's goal with the ball sports was to put it through someone's head, right?
I liked hitting things hard.
Yeah.
That was my favorite
Right.
thing.
That was your favorite thing.
I liked playing doubles. I liked being at the net. I liked hitting things hard.
Right.
And having a big serve.
And so that is it's like cross country running.
Yeah.
Always,
Yeah, there's a
Love
long-term goal.
Yes.
Believe me, I did that for years. I still don't understand why I did it.
I also think runners just like to punish themselves.
Right.
and wrestlers are the same way. They
Yeah,
just
exactly.
love that challenge, and they work hard, and they're,
It's kind of like chess, just with your body.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have no ears left, so your ears are destroyed by that whole thing, full of pus and grossness, and just amazing. We're not here to talk about that kind of stuff, because it's the busiest time of the year for Schreiner right now, because it's all the sports are out there, and we've got track, we've got tennis, we've got wrestling is finishing up, basketball's finishing up. It's a wonderful nexus of everything happening at the end of the year as we march toward there. But you have another big task ahead of you. The reason why you're here, people want to know what's going on. Football. The Mountaineers return to football in 2026. Maybe you might have a team in 2025, like a JV team. Is that what you're thinking, maybe? Or?
Yeah, the goal is to do a developmental season in 2025.
Yeah.
And that's going to be to really just help us build the program and get some experience and all that. But the 2026, fall 2026 is the target date to start intercollegiate football.
Right. The goal here, you opened the job up 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
For the head coaching job. I mean, the specifics of it. I mean, basically, okay, we're going to build this program, and you're going to come in and run. I mean, that's got to be very intoxicating to coaches, and I think that maybe be indicated by the number of people who've applied. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, we're close to 100 applications right now, which is amazing. It's a unique opportunity. Very rarely do you get to come in and build something from scratch.
Yeah.
And nobody, there's never going to be another first-time head coach here, that's going to build this program. So that's exciting. That's something that is, I think, is great, but is also very daunting from a standpoint of we gotta find the right person.
Right.
The X's and O's are the easy part of this job. It's going to be all the other stuff. And to me, that's why we're trying to take our time, trying to make sure we find the right person.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned this earlier that you can have 12 to 15 basketball players, give them some uniforms, throw them out there with the ball, and you have a program basically. With this, though, although I can't really understand, like, when you see the NCAA and anymore, and then the NBA, there's like 25 million assistant coaches now. They sit behind everybody. It's like I'm waiting for them to have like the F1 type, pit, where they have the crews and they have their headsets on, almost like the NFL. Like, how many coaches do you need, to sit on the bench? It's crazy.
Well, that was when I coached. I coached Division III my whole career, and I used to go to clinics, and I would sit there and listen to, John Calipari or all these great coaches, and they would demonstrate a drill, and they've got more assistant coaches and managers out there than they do players.
Yeah.
And I was the guy who used to raise my hand and say, Coach, okay, how do we do this when it's you and 18 players?
Right.
How do you get this same drill? And none of them could ever.
Never.
So it's very different.
Right.
It's just growing. It's a profession. As money gets into a profession, more and more people can do it.
Yeah.
We've seen it in football with the analysts, and and with contracts, you get fired at one place, you can't take another coaching job, but you can take an analyst job someplace else.
Right.
So that keeps you in.
Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just growing up, but it's as money goes. Money gets into it.
Money gets into it.
At our level, it's much. It is about the players. It is about roster sizes. It is about kids who come to school and want to continue playing the sport. And so it's not. We're not going to have. we may have 30 people on the sidelines who want to volunteer and things like that, which you're not going to not want volunteers,
right.
but the paid positions are going to be very few,
right.
compared to it. So,
all right. So this position, though, we talked about this before. This isn't just basketball. This is not a simple building. You got to recruit. At least, I mean, I think I looked at Texas Lutheran as an example. Had like 135 kids on the roster. Trinity has that many as well. Those will be future opponents. You need at least 100 to be there, to be safe, basically, because you can wear through people pretty quickly. That's going to change a lot of things at the university. How are you guys coping with that piece of it?
And that's why it's such a big task. This is not, like I said, this is not just starting a program and we go on. This will change the dynamics in the dining hall.
Right.
This will change the classroom situation. And when you add, we're looking at probably 120 new students in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And if we do things right the way we want to add some, band kids and cheerleaders and dance team and some of that stuff that comes with football.
Because cheerleading is sort of a suggestion now, not really. Yeah, they kind of just show up whenever, right?
Yes. And we want, with football, it'll become more. If you look at, have you ever seen cheerleaders at a soccer match?
Yeah, no,
no. And then basketball,
maybe in Brazil or something.
Yeah, basketball goes over the Christmas holiday, so you end up only having so many games with kids on campus.
Right.
So football will bring that in the pageantry of it and all those things. So I mean, we're looking at probably hopefully 200 new kids that are somewhere attached to football. Well, when you're a 1,000 student university with 1,000 kids on campus, you add 200 more kids at campus. It's going to change the dynamic.
Yeah, right.
And I went through it at Southwestern when we did it. Little things come up. We couldn't keep chocolate milk in the dining hall because the kids, that's what they wanted.
Right.
So it's those things. And then trying to figure out what they're going to major in, and we're an educational institution. They're here to graduate. They're here to get a degree. That's paramount.
Offer the majors they want to come for,
and make sure we're able to handle that and do those things. So
now, what is your elevator pitch to people like Leslie, who is like over here, like I like tennis, football may not be her thing. How do you assuage some of those critics?
I don't think you're.
Or I should say skeptics. I would say more than anything.
Well, I try to put it into perspective of try to keep the focus on the students. That's the thing I love about Division III and everything that goes through Division III athletics is it's about the students' experience,
right?
The players' experience. It's not about the pageantry. Division I is about the show.
Yeah.
That's why if you watch a game, I'm watching a game last night and I got finally fed up because the final 2 minutes looked like 45 minutes.
Oh my God!
Reviewing everything and doing all. It's about the game. It's about the kids getting a chance to continue to play the game. So that's the major focus of it, and that's not going to change with football. It's about giving them. And I appeal to you love tennis. She wanted to continue playing. We want to give those kids a chance to continue playing. And then I think the biggest one for us is it's going to bring it's just going to raise all boats. I was talking to some of the retired coaches who were here before, and where I look at it as football recruits. Still in the high schools. They're really the only sport that is visiting high schools a lot because they have to because of the numbers. Well, I always go back. We don't have a presence in a high school.
Right.
Coach Jones over at Tavia, we're talking about it, and he just went through that where all these schools were coming through to talk to their kids.
Yeah.
Not one of them wore a Schreiner shirt. Not one of them, and I go, how many applications? How many kids would not just football players but other kids? They guy gets pulled out, talk to a football coach, goes to the to study hall or goes to the cafeteria and hey, I talked to so and so. This school is really cool. How many kids are going to Google that and may decide that hey, this is not a bad place for them. Yeah.
I was recruited. I was scouted. Lee Jennings scouted me in high school. I don't know how much that happened. That was a different time. That's almost 20 years ago now.
But it's now most of it's now online.
It was like I said, it was a different time.
And most of it is summertime tournaments and all those things. So we just like I said, I started. I used to go to high schools all the time.
Yeah.
And eventually it was just the games at night, or practice during the day. But football, they said they finished their season and they are out going 3 or 4 high schools a day.
Right.
And I go just that advertising alone is something we can't pay for.
Right. What's the process look like right now as far as what is your timeline for hiring somebody?
we're hoping to get somebody in by April 1st. That's my goal. I want to get someone on board before the end of the school year, which would be beginning of May at the latest. We want to give them, the key is getting the right person.
Right.
So I don't want to rush this because I want to make sure, because it's bigger than just the football. It's we're going to have someone help us figure out all the things. I know just enough to get myself in trouble when it comes to football. I'm a former basketball coach. You ask me about basketball, I can answer you almost any question.
Right.
Football, I can give you an answer. I want to make sure it's the right one.
Right.
So I got to get a partner in there to help us, because I tell the story. We had a consultant on who was a former Division I coach at Princeton, went to Stetson to start their programs, now college president. And he came in, Dr. McCormick had met him, and he came in and was talking about the experience of it to our board. And, it was eye-opening how many moving parts there were.
Yeah.
And this guy was very detail-oriented, had everything. And he said he went to them after their first practice, and he thought, I have everything in line, this is great. And they got out to the first practice, his assistant walked up to him and said, Coach, we missed something. He's like, there's no way I missed anything. He goes, Coach, we don't have any field goals. And, he went, and it struck me as a basketball coach, the last thing I'd be concerned about if I had to start a program was the baskets.
Right.
Because that's,
you don't think about it.
Yeah,
it's just there. They're just there. Right.
Well, with football, we don't have a football stadium on campus. We have to do all that. So that's always, that's helping me kind of go, okay, I got to find someone who's detail oriented, wants to understand, and is going to be able to go and get to the granular. Okay, what do we need? How many footballs do we need? How many all these different pieces.
And footballs aren't cheap either. They're like $50-$60 a pop, if not more.
$450, $500 a piece.
Yeah.
It's So it's a major investment that you've got to make sure you do correctly.
And then the facilities issues, which you guys have kind of given some master plan hints at, for possibly an on-campus stadium somewhere down the road. And then, where are you at with fundraising and identifying, a place to play? Are you going to play at Tybee? Are you going to have to, soccer runs concurrently, with football, in the fall? How do you kind of manage all of the weight facilities and all the other things on campus?
Well, the first one, we had a great meeting with KISD, and we've got an agreement in place to just working on the details of it. But we're going to play our home games at Tybee Stadium, which is great. I think it's a great facility. So and that's eventually we want to get an on-campus stadium, but to me that's something that will come down the road as we build this thing. We've got plans in place. We're going to start breaking ground hopefully this summer on a weight room and some locker rooms and things like that in our old facility in Eddington to accommodate the football and the rest of the programs. We're working through practice fields. We'll be able to practice on campus. We've still got to figure out, if you don't do turf, which would be great, but we're probably not going to do turf, is how do you then practice with soccer and all those things going on in the fall. So we got some details we got to work out that way, but like I said, they're nice because they're solvable problems. They're not anything. There's nothing yet that I've run into that's a unbelievable hurdle that there's no way we can get over.
Right.
We'll have some challenges. It's going to be a heavy lift. It's going to be a hard experience, but I think it's going to be great in the long run. That's what, to me, I look back on, I go, I think this could be the greatest thing for Schreiner, but we got to do it right. We got to do it, make sure we hit all those boxes and not miss any of the steps.
Do you look at it from the standpoint of, what does success look like? Making sure that team is on the field in the 26. What does that look like for you?
Yes, I've told Dr. McCormick this, that you're not going to see me happy until the ball's in the air on the September 26th when we're playing our first game and there's packed stadium and all that stuff.
Right.
Success, athletics is so interesting because success is easy to define because you have a scoreboard. I remember my daughters were in plays in high school, and I remember telling my wife how interesting it would be if there was a scoreboard.
Yeah.
You could store theater. Yeah.
Missed their line. Minus 5 points.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting. But that's the world of athletics. Is you either win or you lose.
Yeah.
It's objective.
And sometimes people always, when I coach, people would wonder, I was telling somebody a story. We lost a game where our kids executed perfectly in the final seconds, get a backdoor layup, run our offense perfectly, get a layup, take a lead with like 1.2 seconds to go. They throw the ball in, the kid throws it from 94 feet and hits nothing but the bottom of the net. We lose the game.
Wow.
And the people are like, "Are you devastated?" I'm like, "No, our kids,
they
if
played a
someone would've
great
told me
game.
you're gonna have a 1-point lead. They have to go 94 feet with 1.2 seconds to go. I'm gonna win that 99 times out of 100.
Right.
But it's when you don't play well, the ones that kill you. And so to define, win losses are we want to win. That's why we play the games. But to me, more importantly, is the right kids, the right students graduating. As I tell people, my favorite day of the year is May graduation, and when I can sit there and watch these young people who came in as 18-year-olds and didn't know what they were doing and walk across the stage as young men and women who are going places. That's why we do it.
Right.
That's me. And then we help that with athletics and hold them accountable, help them understand it. Our teams are, on a bus right now to Shreveport, Louisiana, and are going to be out of class for 2 days to go to this conference tournament. They've got to take care of their business in the classroom. They got to take care of the missed class and all that stuff. They do it because they love it, and they'll get through it because it's important to them.
So when do you expect to have a coach in place?
Sometime in April. I'm hoping as close to April 1st as we can, because I'd like to get them here and get them going and get all that stuff started as quick as we can. But I don't want to rush it. I want to get the right person. So we want, by the end of the school year, we want to have someone in place. Use the summer to kind of really get ourselves organized and prepared. We want to try to do some alumni things with them and get out and get some people excited about it.
Right.
Obviously, the fundraising piece is a big part, and they're going to play a part in that because. I told Dr. McCormick when we started down this path, I said, you got to be prepared. There are going to be situations where you're not the most important Schreiner person in the room because it's
football
Texas
coach.
and football,
Yeah.
and there'll be people who, will give to Schreiner because of football, but wouldn't give for anything else, and it's okay. I'm all right with that, and the fact that as long as they understand our mission and what we're trying to do, and we want to. We're not going to win games with bandits, and we want to win a game with the right kids. We're going to represent the school well, represent the community well, all that stuff. So,
because it's not just it's a 7-figure investment. Do you have a ballpark where you're at with this?
And it's a big ballpark. It's a big investment because but the payoff is great. I mean, again, you change 150 new kids in the campus. That's a big change for the university too. So. And it's Texas, I'm not a native Texan. I tell people this all the time. I got here, and my first job as a basketball coach, my AD walked in the first day and dropped Friday Night Lights, the book on my desk, and he said, "Read this." Yeah. And I read it.
It's a culture.
Yes, and it explains a lot. And
it's a fascinating culture because it one of the things that always people ask me, the difference between California and Texas, and I'm like, well, Texas football, high school football the culture is amazing. I necessarily haven't always seen, that reflected on the field maybe, but there's no place really for them to go after high school. There's very few community colleges, and that was one thing about California is that every community college pretty much fielded football because they got paid for it from the state. So of course and like you said, it puts 150 to 200 kids on the campus for sure, and that pays for itself. And so that's been the thing that I've kind of like, wow, all these great kids, because you never know with kids either. Like sometimes these boys especially, they might develop, significantly then, after, after they get to college. So I look at Bo Cervantes, he was a scrawny little guy when he came in. Now he's like, when I see him in person, like, you're not taller than I thought you were. What happened to you, So, there's those kids that they kind of have a tendency to grow a little bit. Maybe they're 17 when they graduate. They're still growing, 18, 19. So I like the idea of more opportunities for kids.
It's about what you can do. The Division I has become, you got to fit a cookie cutter.
It's a machine.
Yeah.
Basketball is you got to win the genetic lottery somewhere. So Cam Ross is 6'6", and you look at Texas roster, University of Texas basketball roster.
He'd be
a guard.
Yeah.
Maybe a small forward if he's lucky. our level, it's all over the place. Jalen Ned, is a 6'1" kid who, he's playing between he sometimes plays a 4 position for us, and he out rebounds bigger guys, and he can't do that at the higher level.
No.
It's about what you look like, what you can, not what you look like, what you can do.
Right.
And I love that about it. And the fact that there are kids. We get a lot of kids out of the small schools. And to me, that's a great recruiting base for us. And there's some tough kids who play but aren't going to be the 6'5", 300-pound offensive tackle.
Right.
Maybe the 6 foot, 270-pound kid or 250-pound kid. That's that kid can play at all.
Right. Who did you turn to? Who's been your trusted consultant? You mentioned Coach Jones over at Tybee. Has he been someone you've talked to a little bit to give perspective? You've been through this already once, but who's helped you?
A lot of people. I mean, the coach at Southwestern who was there when I brought him has been a friend for a long time. So I've kind of talked with him about just as I don't understand things. Centenary went through it recently. They just added it in our league. So David over there, AD, we've talked a bunch, just about, okay, what trap doors, what am I missing? Those type of things.
They had it at one time too, right? Weren't they?
No, they were Division I.
Yeah.
But they weren't. They didn't play. They
didn't play football.
That's where Robert Parrish played.
Yeah.
They were the smallest Division I in the country at one time. So they're doing it from scratch like we are. I said just anybody and everybody. I've got I know just enough that I know what I don't know.
Right.
And I'm very big on trying to, let's try to get people to the table because you can't miss one of these things. I look at it as a row of dominoes that I want to make sure we're tipping them off one at a time as opposed to kind of jumping because it's
an expensive investment.
And the first big domino is the coach.
Right.
Because that's the person I'm trying to get is someone who's going to be a partner, who's going to be able to be working with me to make sure we understand that they're going to be integrated into what we do. One of the things that I've seen is football because it's so big, can kind of get isolated.
Right.
One of our goals is to make sure they're integrated with the rest of the student body, rest of the coaches, because it's to make it work, it's got to be that way. We're too small of a place.
Weirdly, we covered Division III football, in California as well, and there was always that wink, like. We don't have athletic scholarships, but we might be able to help you out in some way. Is that still part of the Division III thing, as far as like aid goes?
I know in our place, no. I think we do a pretty good job of keeping the cost down, but it's not going to be free. And we tell that to parents right off the bat. This is not. There isn't that wink.
Right.
Hey, just because your kid's a pretty good player, you're going to get more money. It doesn't work that way.
Right. If your kid's a good student, then maybe,
yes.
right?
And that's why it's so important to find kids who want it. And I look at it as a parent who just had 2 kids go through college. I mean, you want your kids to find a place where they can succeed. And to me, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's what we want to present to them as, we want them to come play football, but we want them to come to Schreiner to graduate and play football and have a great experience. And to me, that's what we do this for. And I think you can do those things. That's got to be what you're doing it for.
Right.
They're not going to make money as a professional.
Let me ask you this. It'll be our last question for now, at least. You see the big picture of what's happening in the NCAA. There's a lot of speculation, that we're going to see it go away. At least at the major universities, you're seeing this conference, alignment. That I remember Chip Kelly, who's now the Ohio State, offensive coordinator. He said, "There's no reason to have these conferences, for football. It's ridiculous. Why should our softball and gymnastics teams have to travel across the country, for a 3-game series when they can just do it right here, at home, basically." But there is that move, and the money that has come in, it's always been there, but now it's out in the open. NIL money. Matt Rule at Nebraska saying it would cost him $1.5 million to even have a conversation about getting a quarterback to transfer in. So you're at a different level now. And does the NCAA survive the NIL era, and how does that trickle down to Division III?
That's the $1 million question, but I don't. If I'm looking at my crystal ball, I don't think Division III changes much because really the NCAA does two things for us. One, they keep our dues down.
Right.
So the dues to be a member is very low comparatively. And then the men's basketball championship helps pay for our championships.
Right.
So, I don't think they're going to break the Golden Goose is the men's basketball championship. They're going to try to keep it because football. People don't realize football is
not part of the deal.
No, the NCAA doesn't get anything out of it. So I agree with you 100%. I remember when Rutgers joined the Big Ten, and it's great for Rutgers football. They've made money off of it, but the women's soccer team is busing to Michigan State to play a soccer game, or in vans sometimes, going 12, 14 hours. Makes no sense.
Makes no sense, right?
So there's going to be some changes. The NIL thing, I've always been frustrated with it because, again, I don't have a problem with it. I think if someone's selling a jersey with their number on and your name on the back, you should get something.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
Right.
But I get mad when they sit there and they devalue what a college education is. You're getting a free college education.
Right.
For those of us that paid it.
Yeah. Right.
That's offensive to me.
It is offensive to me. I find that very offensive that, there is that devaluation of it, Look, I'm paying for Baylor, and my daughter had a great education at Baylor and a great opportunity to go to Baylor. I don't have any regret about that at all, but I'm paying for that, and that's worth something, I remember I interviewed a parent one time whose daughter went to play University of Washington. This is, 20 some years ago. And she, he told me the dad said, yeah, she just saved us, in tuition alone and, $250,000. This was 20 years ago. He goes, and I'm not even counting the trips to Europe that she went on because of the university, or all the all the food and all the athletic gear that she had. It was life changing. So yeah, there is that as well.
Yeah, I love college athletics. I think it's a great thing. It's just, and I love. I was glued to the television watching the national championship game, and I love all that stuff. The pageantry of it, but it's a business, and when it. And that's what I love about Division III is our kids, they talk about employing, the employment thing. Our kids is a choice. Yeah. And I say that all the time. I said, you don't have to play.
Right.
No one's, we're not making you get on that bus. You're not getting any more money. You're doing it because you continue to want to have that opportunity to make it fun. So I don't think that's going to change dramatically for us.
Right.
It's just going to be, like I said, if the Division I basketball championship dries up a little bit, although women's basketball is blowing up. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to watch that Caitlin Clark play. And, right. She's so much fun to watch. And that's interesting because that was from 20 years ago when they changed the basketball, made the basketball smaller. This whole generation of kids grew up with that.
Yep.
And it's made the game much more exciting.
Well, if you look at the last few NCAA tournaments, the women's side, you had these dynastic programs, Connecticut and Tennessee. Well, this year there's, South Carolina's, different because Dawn Staley's a force of nature. But it is so. Sometimes those games are so good, and I used to be kind of down on women's basketball, but I would say over the last decade. Every Final Four has, been fascinating to watch, or thrillers or double overtimes, just amazing. So.
And again, when you have, when UCLA was winning all those championships back in the 70s, it gets boring.
Yeah.
When Connecticut and, when you had only 2 or 3 teams that were a chance to win a national championship, it's not as now it's wide open. Right. And I saw a stat this morning on, in men's basketball, the higher ranked teams are winning just barely 50% of their games on the road against unranked teams. Yeah, there's parity.
There's parity,
and that makes it fun.
Yeah, there's parity,
and that's exciting. And that's what like I said. That's what I love about our level is it's about the game. It's about what you do. It's and the excitement is when they get it from the group. That's it's not going to be. They're not going to get easy grades, or they're not going to get. They don't get money for playing. They do it because they want to continue playing and love doing it.
All right, good job, Bill. Always good to talk to you.
Well, thank you.
We'll have to drag you back on again sometime as we get a little closer with football coach coming. So I'm going to go back to the nasal cam, Leslie.
All right.
I'm a little dark, but making sure that I got it. All right, Bill. Thank you very much for being here.
Bye, Bill. Thank you.
But by the way, are you going to go to Pata Hot on Saturday, or are you going to Louisiana?
I I have baseball games.
Okay.
We've got
All right.
4 baseball games this weekend.
That's right. Check them out. Leslie.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill. See you later. Pot of Hot is, wait a minute.
Kicks
Sorry.
off at noon.
Kicks off at noon.
Saturday. Get your tickets or come hang out.
I'll be there. You're going to come.
I'll be there late. I have a board retreat. Riverside Nature Center board retreat, so I'll be there till after 3.
Yeah. You might want to be, if you're going to go out to a baseball game or a softball game, you might want to consider getting your quencher tumbler over at the Stanley. The Stanley tumblers.
Over at Gibson's.
Gibson's Discount Center has all those for you and more. And also, don't forget our good friends over at Napa. Take 5.
Yeah. Get
$5 off. Napa Gold Filter with purchase of 5 quarts of Mobil 1. So take advantage of that. It's good for your car. You can go see Dalton Dover and all his people. They'll take care of you as well. All right, Leslie, any final thoughts from you today?
No final thoughts. I got to run over. Speaking of Riverside, I got to run over there because I'm going to read today at Sprouts.
Are you?
Yeah.
What are you going to read?
We're reading Can You Who?
Oh, is that banned? It should be.
They checked it out from the library.
Did they? Oh, interesting.
It's all about sounds animals make.
All right. Is the outage over yet? Is it done?
I don't know. I'm on the Wi-Fi here, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Does everyone have Wi-Fi? Is it okay?
You have 15 people watching.
Well,
so.
if you have Wi-Fi, let us know. And because let me see what's trending real quick here. AT&T doesn't know what's going on. Let me see here. By the way, I finished that Fargo season yesterday.
Nice.
That's so good. People Magazine 34 minutes ago saying nationwide AT&T outage preventing emergency calls.
Beautiful.
When will it end? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going on. So it could be a real problem. The other crazy story this weekend too, by the way, was this in vitro fertilization ruling in Alabama. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, something about it actually being considered.
The embryos are considered children. So everyone's like freaking out because there was this, and this is how it happened, right? I think there was the court case was what spawned this was a fire at an Alabama IVF facility, and it destroyed all these embryos. And the people who were there, who had them stored there, wanted compensation.
Understandable.
And so they granted compensation based on the fact that those are children. And so this really
it's going to
changed.
set a really
not
a great precedent.
A different precedent. And so now they're trying to figure out how we're going to get around this whole thing. So I tell you what, we live in a fascinating time.
We do.
Leslie, I don't know how we're going to get through it. So I don't know how to make it
I'm just going to throw my uterus away. That's how I'm going to get through it.
There you go. That's perfect. That's perfect. Is that something you can do? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'll get sued for throwing away children now. I don't know.
Your uterus will not be
they're old anyway. I don't know how great viable they are.
You cannot.
I'd have to find a doctor that does it.
Right. You cannot control your uterus in this state, right? You have no control.
Very limited. You've got more rights on your private parts than I do.
Yeah. Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, it makes me a real peach to talk about it.
Let's talk about your uterus today, everybody. What a world we live in. By the way, I got to tell you, I'm still troubled by these recent things, right? Not to bash the Republicans all the time, because the Democrats have plenty of dumb stuff. Like, I was reading this whole thing about the dog, Biden's dog, Commander.
That's biting people.
Like, they found out he bit more people than they let on, and it almost always was Secret Service agents.
How interesting.
And it was a USA Today story, but like no one in there discussed, the psychology of the dog situation. But there's that, and then this 1 in 5 Republicans believing that Taylor Swift is a government asset.
Yeah, she's an op.
She's running an op on Biden's behalf. So
Biden's got his own problems.
I was listening to that crazy Republican party audio. If you want to go to the Kirk County Republican, they're all there. You just go listen to it. It's like so much chaos, and the rationalization and justification for your kind of position of authority and having sex with a 19-year-old. I mean, what? That's what they were saying. Is I know plenty of 19-year-olds who are having sex. That was one of the ladies who's running for the chair. And like defending defending a person who had used his authority.
I'm leaving out a lot of context.
I'm leaving out a lot of context.
No, they are.
Yeah,
when
right.
you say that.
Right. They're saying basically, well, it's okay. It's okay to do that. It's all right. Everything's fine. And I don't understand that. How is there any morality left in that side of things, or is it just because you wear a gigantic capital C on your chest?
Well, just like everything, morality is a spectrum. So, Tawny Fontaine Jenner said that she's got a draft of her own book. Sounds Tawny makes. Would I proofread it? Of course I will.
Good grief!
Can't wait to read it.
Did you?
I will not be reading that at Sprouts though.
Did she send it to you specifically?
She put it in the chat.
Oh my gosh!
All right, I really do got to go.
All right, goodbye.
All right, bye.
All right, have a good day, everybody. Tomorrow's show, I don't know. Julie will be here. Someone else will be here. Oh, Dalton will be here tomorrow. So, all right, goodbye, Leslie. Don't drop stuff. Good seeing you. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to visit Quick Lane over at Ken Supple Ford. They'll help you out. They'll give you stuff. Also, thanks to Peterson Health and all of our sponsors. It was good to have you here on a Thursday. Hopefully, cell service comes back. Don't forget to visit Quick Lane, though, at 830-257-5557. They'll take care of you today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again tomorrow.